GBA Mario Circuit is one of those courses that's really fun to time trial, but online is rife with opportunity for other racers to abuse the broken-ass item system in this game. That's because there are a ton of shortcuts, one of which in particular I'm going to teach you how to take without the use of mushrooms. Other than that though, not much else to say about the course, so welcome to part 18 of Basic Training, where we're going to cover everything you need to know about GBA Mario Circuit on 150cc. As always, we're going to cover the recommended builds, mushroom strats, coin lines, and other advanced tips and tricks to help you start mastering the course. This tutorial is going to be broken down into 3 parts. In part 1, I'm going to go over a basic version of the run that won't include any advanced strategies whatsoever, and is designed to be widely reproducible so that you can easily conquer the staff ghost. In part 2, I'm going to go over the strategies that I use in my current personal best. In part 3, I'm going to go over the world record strategies. And to help put all these different strategies into context, I'm also going to be including a full replay in each part of the tutorial. Before we get into the video, just want to say that if you're finding these tutorials helpful, don't forget to like the video and leave a comment. This type of thing not only lets me know that you're enjoying the content, but it also lets YouTube know to recommend these videos to other racers who might be looking for tips and tricks on how to improve. I also release a new tutorial every week, so if you want to stay up to date with my latest content, consider hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell beside it so that you don't miss a single video. With all that out of the way, let's dive right on in. The recommended build for this course is going to be Waluigi, Bitty Buggy, Buttons, and Paper Glider. This is a slight variation on our usual try-hard build of Waluigi, Bitty Buggy, Azure Rollers, and Paper Glider. Buttons have slightly higher speed than rollers, and they also get an additional boost to anti-grav, which makes up the small hairpin portion of the track. Other than that though, not much else to say about the build, so let's check out the level 1 strats. So we're going to start off the run by holding left on the joystick before the run begins so that after you get your startup boost you can make your way down to the red and white track border. After building up a super mini turbo, release and start a right drift and grab the first 2 coins on the right hand side of the track. Now when we get to the orange boost ramp, we're going to do something that looks a little weird. You'll notice there's a slight delay between when I go off the ramp and when I actually do the trick. This is because for some reason, this ramp loves to just eat your trick inputs, but if you delay pressing the trick button until just after you go off the ramp, it seems to be a lot safer. In either case, an alternative strategy for the first orange boost ramp is to just do a shake trick. And while that should work, I personally prefer to do the delayed trick because as soon as we land, we're going to start a left drift, and it's a little bit more difficult to do this if you're shaking the controller around, at least for me. After starting your left drift, hold right on the joystick to widen your drift angle, and then try and take this turn as tightly as possible while grabbing the first of these 2 coins around the hairpin turn. The reason we don't want to grab both coins is that doing so would require us to swing our cart way off to the right, and the lost time from this bad line isn't worth grabbing the 1 extra coin. Now after grabbing that coin, you should have a super mini turbo built up, so release, go over the boost pad, and then make your way to the right hand side of the track to grab the rightmost coin on the upcoming orange boost ramp. When going off this ramp, you kinda want to angle yourself in such a way that your cart is pointing right at the red and white track barrier. The reason is that after tricking off the orange boost ramp, we're going to be holding down the drift button and right on the joystick so that as soon as we land, we'll immediately start a right drift. The better your angle is when going off the ramp, the tighter you can take the turn right after you land. After you build up a super mini turbo around the first right turn, release, start a left drift, and then grab the 3 coins around the first left turn. Build up another super mini turbo, release, and then just drive straight until you come up on this oil slick on the right hand side of the track. Then you're going to want to start a left drift and hold right to widen your drift angle, tighten it up just a little bit to grab the coins, widen it one more time, and then mushroom through the off-road to finish the lap. Lap 2 plays pretty similarly to lap 1 with 2 exceptions. First, we're going to grab our 10th coin from the middle of the second orange boost ramp. Next, we want to make sure to take every turn as tightly as possible. Kind of like the Wii U version of Mario Circuit, the goal is to take every turn so tightly that you're basically hanging out on top of the red and white track barrier as much as possible. Lap 3 is pretty much the same as lap 2, so before checking out the level 1 run, let's quickly recap the coin lines. Your first 2 coins are going to come from the first right drift. Coin 3 is going to be the first coin around the hairpin turn. Coin 4 is going to come from the right side of the orange boost ramp immediately after the hairpin turn. Coins 5, 6, and 7 are going to come from the first left-hand turn after coming off the orange boost ramp. Coins 8 and 9 will come right after the first oil slick towards the end of the lap, and then coin 10 is going to come from the middle of the second orange boost ramp on lap 2. Now let's check out a full replay of the level 1 run. Alright, moving on to my PB strats, this plays out pretty differently from the level 1 version. Case in point, we're going to use our mushroom in a totally different way than we did in the level 1 version, and that's because, as we're about to see, the level 1 shortcut spot can actually be taken without a mushroom. Anyways, as soon as the race begins, we're going to again hold left and then start a left drift. Just as we're about to come up on the off-road, we're going to use our mushroom, and then after building up a mini turbo, we're going to release and hop into a right drift to get out of the off-road. The timing on that last bit is fairly specific, by the way. The idea is that if you look a little bit further up on the track, you can actually see when the track starts to turn right. You basically want to release your mini turbo when your kart is in line with the little bend here so that when you come out of the off-road, you can take the turn as tightly as possible. If you did this setup properly, then you should be starting your right drift just after coming off the off-road and be in a good position to grab the first 2 coins just like on the level 1 version of the run. After that, everything is more or less the same until the first left-hand turn after the second orange boost ramp where we grab those 3 coins. What we want to do here is soft drift around this turn to build up an ultra mini turbo and then do 2 right hops for alignment. 2 things to point out about this strategy though. First, you're going to have to hold your drift for an uncomfortably long amount of time. I actually messed it up here since I only managed to get a super mini turbo, but my laps 2 and 3 get the strat properly, so take a look for that in my PB time trial demonstration. The other thing to point out about this turn is the 2 right hops. Basically, because of how long we have to hold the drift, you're going to be angled super far to the left after this turn. You could just hop out of the drift and then hold right on the joystick to start turning right to grab the coins, but the issue is that turning is slow, and the less time you spend holding right on the joystick, the better. So the basic idea is that doing 2 right hops gets us facing in the direction that we need to be going as quickly as possible. The last major difference in strategy that we need to talk about is the upcoming shortcut. In the level 1 version, we just mushroomed through it. I'm not sure how much faster or slower it is to mushroom here versus at the start of the lap, but it actually doesn't matter because as you can see, we don't even need a mushroom to take this cut anyway. But to do this consistently requires that you have a good setup, which is what I'm about to teach you now. So just like on level 1, we're going to come up on this oil patch, start a left drift, and hold right on the joystick to widen your drift angle and grab the 2 coins. After that, tighten up your drift angle just a bit when grabbing these 2 coins so that you don't go into the off-road, and then you're basically just going to hold right on the joystick to take a wide drift all the way up to the shortcut. Now to actually do the shortcut, you're going to need a super mini turbo built up, which is another reason we tighten our drift angle a bit when grabbing the 2 coins. Additionally, the shortcut itself requires a good setup, and there's 3 parts to that. The first is to make sure that when you approach the shortcut that you're aiming for this red bit of the red and white track barrier. The second is to angle your kart in such a way that you're moving towards the innermost red tire. And the third is the timing of the hop. You need to wait until just before you get to the grass and then do a neutral hop, which should carry you over the tire. It's a bit counterintuitive because you'd think that going into the sandy part of the off-road would slow you down and kill your momentum, and so it seems like you'd want to use the track barrier as a ramp. For some reason though, that just doesn't work very well. Anyways, point is, you want to hop just before the grass, and not before the sand. And also, you want to make sure that when you're doing the hop that it's a neutral hop, meaning that you're not putting in any inputs on the joystick. Now if everything worked out properly, then to finish up the cut, as soon as you land, do 1 more hop and your super mini turbo boost should carry you back onto the track. It is a bit tricky to learn how to do this properly, but if you use the setup that I just described, you should be able to get it pretty consistently. Now moving on to lap 2, just before you get to the finish line, you're going to want to make your way to the left-hand side of the track and start a left drift. Just before hitting the off-road, use your mushroom, soft drift around this big wall here, and build up a super mini turbo. Just like before, the idea is to release your super mini turbo when you get in line with that track bend. After that, we're going to go off the orange boost ramp and start a left drift just after we land. Hold right to widen your drift angle just a bit, and then just like the last Shroomless shortcut we did, we're going to try and build up a super mini turbo and then hop just before we get to the grass around the hairpin turn. Hop again immediately upon landing and you should be able to more or less clear this little patch of grass without too much trouble. The rest of the lap proceeds similarly to before. Like I mentioned, I messed up the left ultra mini turbo strat on lap 1, so here's how it's supposed to look on lap 2. Notice that I'm basically on top of the red and white track barrier though. Building up an ultra mini turbo in this way is going to require that you soft drift around this turn, and once you've built up the ultra mini turbo, just like on lap 1, you're going to want to release and do 2 right hops. Start a left drift, and again, make sure to be trying to do this next left drift while staying on top of the red and white track barrier as close to the off-road as possible. The setup for the shortcut is the same as on lap 1, so I won't go into too much detail about it here. The one thing I'll say though is that on lap 1, we approached this shortcut way from the outside because we needed to grab the 2 coins. But on lap 2, we're approaching the shortcut from a much more inside line. So even though our visual cues are the same, meaning that we want to aim for the red portion of the red and white track barrier and then angle ourselves toward that red tire on the innermost part of the shortcut, it might require some adjustment to make sure that you're actually hitting those visual cues properly. Other than that though, lap 2 plays the same as lap 3, so let's check out a full replay of my current personal best. The world record plays out pretty similarly to my current personal best, except that they basically play the Waluigi build as if it were a baby build. And what I mean by that is that they build up additional mini turbos all over the place. I'm pretty sure you'll be able to tell where all these spots are at, and since that's really the only difference, I don't think it's super necessary to go into too much detail about the world record, so I'm just going to provide the replay for you all here. Catch you guys at the end of the video. And that's everything you need to know about GBA Mario Circuit on 150cc. All things considered, it's a pretty straightforward course to time trial, but the shortcuts still keep the track enjoyable to run even if they're not the most consistent things in the world to do. Really, once you've gotten everything else down, the shroomless shortcut at the end of the track is the only thing that's likely to ruin one of your runs, and even then, the setup that I went over should remove a lot of the inconsistency there. But that's going to be it for me for today, guys. Let me know down in the comments if and how much time you were able to save from the strats I went over in this video. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to do some basic training, and as always, I will see you in the next video.